Hello and welcome to Tabletop Oddity. My name is Jay and today I'm going to be doing some basic builds for the ATRT and the AirSpeeder, which I will probably call the AirSpeeder because of my northern accent. I have already done some Rebel builds. We've got Luke Skywalker or the Rebel Troopers, whichever one I decide to put up there. But yeah, today we're going to be concentrating on the ATRT and the AirSpeeder. And yes, let's just do that. I can't find my mouse. There it is. Let's have a look at everything that the ATRT can take, and we'll have a look at obviously the ATRT itself. So it's 55 points. It's the support category. It is a ground vehicle though. It's got 6 wounds, 4 resilience, white defense dice, attacking surge to crit, which I find very interesting. It can take an extra weapon, or a different weapon I should say. It can also take the com upgrade. It's got those grappling claws, which is impact 1. It's got the blaster rifle at range 1 to 3. It also has armor, so it is a proper vehicle in that sense. It's pretty decent at climbing. It's got a climbing vehicle and expert climber. The comms, well, they're not particularly that interesting, so we'll just gloss over that. And for the weapons, well, yes. So I've got to say, they all sort of do two of them do like a specific job, and the Rotary Blaster sort of like an all-rounder. So what do I mean by that? Well, the flamethrower, let's have a look at that. It's got blast, it's 2 dice, however, it has spray. So that means that for each model in that unit, you basically get those dice for it. So let's say those are a unit of 5 troopers, you would get 10 black dice, because it would be 2 times 5. Which is pretty damn decent. However, it is only range 1 and it does have blast. However, if you get that into range 1 of an enemy using cover, like an infantry unit, that's going to decimate them. It's not that good against like an ATST or anything like that. It's just not going to do anything there. But against a unit in cover, to be fair, if you wanted to just run one of these with the ATRT and that, which would be what, 80 points? I couldn't argue against you as long as you were playing it with that goal in mind. The laser cannon, that's your anti-vehicle ATRT. It's range 2 to 4, but it does have impact 3. Now, you've only got 3 dice, so the odds of you not getting any crits or surges in that, I mean, you get a crit or a surge there are what, 2 in 8, like 1 in 4, and then you might miss on the other one. I just find the laser cannon to be a little bit strange in that sense. Like, it doesn't necessarily need impact 3. It feels like that's possibly a wasted stat. And it's the most expensive weapon. I feel like you can probably get your anti-vehicle somewhere else. Maybe even the AirSpeeder or Rebel Troops or something like that. But if you're finding vehicles messing you up, yeah, add it. And then we come to my favourite, and which this is actually build number 1. It's the Rotary Blaster, which has got 5 black dice. Now, this, I say, it's a jack of all trades, master of none, because obviously it doesn't have, if you use that, it doesn't have any keywords. You've not got impact, you've not got blast. What are you doing? But the fact that it's got like a really good surge means a hit or a surge, no, a crit or a surge is actually going to be a wound against the vehicle, pretty much. Which I think it's okay. If you've got 5 black dice, it's the same. I think it's like 1 in 4 on each, so pretty decent. If I'm wrong about the odds, like I'm sorry, but it's still pretty good. It's cheap and cheerful at 85 points. I feel like this can pack a punch. As I said, it's an all-rounder. It's pretty much decent against a lot of things, but it doesn't really specialise in anything. However, the main problem with the ATRT, if you want to call it a problem, because you've got to weigh this off against the cost, is that 4 resilience and those 6 wounds, white defense dice. Pretty much all vehicles, I think, seem to have the white defense dice. I guess that's a way of balancing out the armor. But, and it's not exactly like you can dodge or block it, I guess. That's the armor's job. It's not a huge target like the ATST, but if you slow march some of these towards your opponent, they're going to be like, that's pretty dangerous, especially if you've got that flamethrower. Unless you can hide it behind buildings or what have you, I'm going to be like, if you're running that towards me, I'm going to be like, I'm going to either stay away from that thing or I'm going to shoot it down really quickly. But if you've got the Rotary Blaster, it lets you do a bit more than just charge forward. So that's why I like it. It is focused down quickly still, but I'm a big fan of this as the like the basic build for it. If you want to use the other weapons, then just try and utilize them the best they can. One's anti-vehicle, the other's anti-troops in cover. Basically, you've got to play them like that. That's pretty much it for the ATRT. The reason we're doing two together is because I don't really have that much to say on them both, so bear with me on that sense. And then we have the AirSpeeder. Now, there's a few things that I like and dislike about this, but we'll go through it as a whole. It's 175 points. You get one of them. It is a vehicle. It's a repulsive vehicle. 7 wounds, 5 resilience, white defense dice. Got a defensive surge, which is pretty good. Its normal weapon is a fixed front impact 3 with 3 red, 3 black dice, which I find pretty interesting. It can take a pilot, hence the wedge, which is on that side. It's got cover 1 naturally. Arsenal 2 means it can fire 2 weapons in the same turn. Pretty interesting. It's immune to blast and melee. It's speed of 2, so it ignores terrain less than height 2 or lower. That's some pretty high terrain. That it's like 12 inches, pretty high up. It can take the comm upgrades, but we've seen them quite a lot. There, like a lot of things can take those. Well, wedge, he gives you a full pivot if you want to use it. So instead of just being able to pivot 90 degrees, you can pivot up to 360. You could have just said 180, but just for the sake of clear, like covering all of the bases, it's up to 360. The Groan Buzzer is 4 black dice. Now, the extra weapons here, they're all weapons that come out of its backside. But because it has Arsenal 2, you can shoot 1 forward and 1 back. That's pretty much the gist of it here. So the weapon it has is fixed front, and the other ones are fixed rear. So the Groan Blaster's 4 black dice, range 1 to 2, pretty okay. The Power Harpoon is an interesting one. It's 1 red dice. It's got obviously fixed rear. It's got this tow cable, so after a vehicle is wounded by an attack, that includes this weapon, which I have to say I find interesting because it's fixed rear. You've only got the 1 chance to wound it with the red dice. Now, the red dice is the best dice, but if they have maybe cover, then you're really going to need a crit, which is terrible odds anyway. But if you do cause a wound, you can perform a pivot with that. Now, if you against an opposing, say, speeder bikes or something like that, who are on the edge of the board, or another AirSpeeder, something with a compulsory move, you could pivot them and then have them automatically just go off the board themselves, which I find quite funny. How useful that will be, I don't know, but it is only 8 points, so it is quite cheap. So we'll keep these in mind as we move on to our 2 simple builds for the AirSpeeder. I should call it the T47. It's a lot easier with my northern accent to actually say. So the first build, I like the Groan Buzzer. If I'm going to take an extra weapon, or if I'm going to take the AirSpeeder, you should pretty much always take an extra weapon. I just think if you spend so much getting the thing, you might as well. Then I would probably take the Groan Buzzer. It's a all-round, it's like back to the ATRT kind of thing. It's the all-rounder of the choices. It doesn't really specialise in anything, but full black dice pretty decent in a lot of situations. I couldn't think of many pros and cons for this build, because a lot of the pros and cons are actually by the AirSpeeder itself. I don't really like it. I feel like it's a lot of points for what it does, but this specific build you could say is good for flanking, but the AirSpeeder itself is hard to position because you don't have wedge. You might end up getting yourself in a little bit of trouble because you are movement 3. You've got 3 movement and you need to do a compulsory move. I find that to be a little bit awkward. You've got 7 wounds for 175 points. Like, you're almost the cost of an ATST, but you're like almost half as many wounds. Yeah, you've got cover and stuff like that and armor, but I personally don't feel like it covers it. So the plan here would be to flank something, keep everybody in your front arc, but then if you have to zoom past everybody, you then get a nice shot with your front and your back. But then you're probably going to die. Like, I just can't see you succeeding even down the back. Obviously, they'll have to shoot you because they're not going to be able to melee you, but meh. So to try and mitigate that, you could always rock with the this build, which includes wedge, and this is basically the antithesis, the opposite of the first one. Yeah, we've got that power harpoon. That's against vehicles. We've got comms jammer, so you really just want to fly this like into the heart of your enemy, like maybe an ATST, turn it round, or another AirSpeeder perhaps. You've got Wedge just to make it so you can control yourself a little bit better. It's still good at flanking, just because of its speed. It's still hard-ish to position. Yeah, you've got Wedge, but you've still got a compulsory move. This is your anti-vehicle build. It's got impact 3 on the front, impact 1 on the back. These are more cons for the whole thing. It's got 5 resilience, it's focused down pretty quickly. This one would be a little bit of a disruptor. You do get into the heart of your enemy, well, they need to deal with it because they're not going to be able to issue their orders and that kind of thing. As a whole, I'm not a huge fan of the AirSpeeder. I just feel like it's like 175 points. To me, that's crazy, like crazy high. It's very hard to use because what you don't want to do is fly forward, get shot, and die. And if you're like movement 3, you've got a compulsory move forward, you're going to be the target because you're going to be the one that's in range. So you're going to have to deploy right at the back of the board, maybe even at an angle, maybe even go up and down a turn, just so you're not you don't want to be singled down, you don't want to be focused, so you've got to play it very strangely. Obviously, if you can put it on the flank that nobody's on, yeah, you could get a use out of it there. I actually quite like this in disarray because you would maybe just put the AirSpeeder in one of the corners and leave the other, and everything else in the other. The idea being that because you're going to be like the enemies are going to be on each side, flying through the middle and getting like trying to shoot both sides. Yeah, I think I like it in disarray. I don't like it as a whole, but that's my personal thoughts on the AirSpeeder, and I spent a lot of time considering that, saying I don't really like it. The ATRT though, I actually think is pretty decent. It's got a lot of combinations. I say a lot of combinations. It's got 3 unique different weapons. I feel like the laser cannon, you can possibly do the same thing, like just with the Rotary Blaster. It might not be quite as effective or as efficient, but it can do the same sort of thing. So and it's more expensive, so I personally wouldn't take the laser cannon at all. The flamethrower, I would really like the option of just getting the flamethrower on it and just barreling forward. Or at least, if you can't barrel forward, hide behind buildings, try and keep yourself out of sight. Because if you do get like maybe 1 or 2 shots off a full infantry unit with the flamethrower and spray, damn, they're gonna die. They're gonna die. But the Rotary Blaster is just such a good all-rounder that I quite like it. And it's pretty cheap. Like, if you don't take any of the other weapons, you pay in 55 points, which is basically a rebel, like a trooper unit. You get as many wounds as a trooper unit. The downside is you don't get as many shots, but you get stuff like armor. You're going to be in a nuisance. I could easily see you running these naked if you really wanted to. I still think the Rotary Blaster is the best option, but it's an option that's out there. That's pretty much it for now. I think we've finished all of the core box, basically. I've gone through each unit, just said what kind of build I think is pretty good. Obviously, your builds will depend on the synergy in your list. If you don't have any vehicles that are designed to kill vehicles, if you don't have any units that are designed to kill vehicles, then maybe the ATRT with the Impact 3 could be useful for you. Like, you've got to plan for what you think you're going to see, which in this case we pretty much know what we're going to see. It's going to be vehicles and troopers and commanders. And then you've got to think, well, okay, I need to be able to take down vehicles and I need to be able to take down infantry. Those two are pretty much going to win you the game right now. Oh, I'm going to need to hold objectives as well. So you need your infantry. So, I mean, if you've not got any vehicle killers, make sure you take that. If you've not got any troop killers, make sure you take that. You've got to fit your builds to what you need in your list, basically. If you try and just become focused on one thing, you'll probably fail in another in this game at the moment. That's sort of what it seems like. I've rambled enough. Let me know your thoughts on these builds. As I said, that is the end of the basic core box. What I will move on to next will be lists. So I did a basic guide on what to buy if you're new to Star Wars Legion, and there's a couple of basic lists in there. They're not like most powerful lists or anything like that, but you can make them out of core boxes and basically one of each if that's something you're interested in. However, then we'll start ramping up. I probably would like to play a couple more games before we start doing like, all right, this is a build that I think is really working. But I do have some ideas about that anyway, as you've probably picked up during these videos. do like, subscribe, and as ever guys, have a most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. Bye guys.